often talk about the opening of the forbidden door that is interpromotional warfare as is likely happening as a John Cena heel turn or Vince McMahon actually letting someone who understands how the wrestling industry works in 2021 have a go. But it's happened more often than you might think, and fingers crossed, it could be happening a whole lot more very soon. With that in mind, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, and these are 10 times wrestling open the forbidden door. Number 10, AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. The forbidden door was slammed shut for some fairly obvious reasons. I mean, after all, Cody Young Bucks and Hangman Page announced All Elite Wrestling outside the sodding Tokyo Dome, and Kenny Omega left after New Japan had planned an entire expansion around his drawing power. To be fair, in their defense, the guys thought that their remuneration wasn't a correct amount given by New Japan, and they considered Harold Meij, the former president, it doesn't matter. They considered him an idiot, especially when he failed to keep Omega and then just flat out refused to even entertain a relationship with AEW. But when Harold left, the canny Tony Khan saw an opportunity and cracked that forbidden door ajar. He saw that Kenta was stuck in Florida with travel restrictions not allowing him to go anywhere, and the fact that New Japan were desperate for a long overdue US title defense by Jon Moxley. He parlayed that into a relationship alongside his working relationship with Impact Wrestling that now gives us a whole array of mind-blowing dream matches. Just think, if we can get this ongoing global bastard dealt with, we are this far away from Kenny Omega versus Shingo Takagi, a match that would make Michael Sidgwick's heart grow 3 sizes. Number 9, Eric Bischoff calls out Vince McMahon. A forbidden door opened that Vince McMahon couldn't walk through, but that was the point of it all. Ahead of Slamboree in 1998, Eric Bischoff challenged Vince McMahon to a fight on pay-per-view. It was never, ever going to happen, and that is why Eric Bischoff did it. It was a petty publicity stunt that would allow him to claim victory via forfeit and say Vince McMahon was too bloody scared to even show up. What would the fight have actually looked like? Well, to be fair, he has got a martial arts background, and Bischoff actually told Sportskeeda he would have kicked Vince McMahon's ass. But we all know Vince McMahon wouldn't have quit. He never, ever quits. So it would probably look like Ali versus Inoki, but somehow even worse. Number 8, Doc Gallows doesn't give a... I love Doc Gallows. I would love to go for a pint with him. He would drink me under the table and no doubt embarrass me, but I couldn't care less. And he alleges during his most recent one with WWE, he was running independent shows until the feds shut that thing down because independent contractor bollocks and all that. How did he respond to all that? Well, according to a recent appearance on the Talk is Jericho podcast, one of the best podcasts out there that isn't ours, of course, he allegedly sold the promotion, changed the name, and then just silently started running more. What a guy. Number 7, a WWF star beats a WCW star for the ECW title at the height of wartime. Right, this one sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. Basically, Mike Awesome was ECW World Champion when he debuted for WCW. So in order to correct things and take that title off him, Paul Heyman, who was in charge of ECW, contacted Vince McMahon so he could get his ECW legend Taz, who was then working for the WWF, to come in and beat Mike Awesome and transition that championship off him. So a WWF guy, Taz, although an ECW legend, beat a WCW guy, Mike Awesome, to get the ECW title back to where it belongs. You see, Vince, WWF beat WCW all those years ago. You really didn't have to do Sting dirty when he faced Triple H at WrestleMania. Although you also didn't have to have Triple H beat Taz whilst he was ECW champion, you bastard. Number 6, MCMEMPHIS. Fascinating one, this. In the early 90s, Vince McMahon was desperate to sign Jerry Lawler, and Memphis was the last sort of territory holdout. And as a result, Vince McMahon debuted this sort of proto-Mr. McMahon character, because Lawler was so desperate to see this territory he loved so much and had such stakes in not eat shit like all of the others had. It was genius, this walk through the Forbidden Door that saw McMahon portray himself as the real authority in wrestling, as he infiltrated this territory and got, well, the exact reaction you would assume. Wrestling Apocrypha has it that the old Little Kings would rather see him dead than collaborate with him. Number 5, Vince McMahon and John Cena appear at an indie show. I think it's fair to say Vince McMahon isn't the biggest fan of independent wrestling, which makes the story of him eating an AA from John Cena at a indie chaotic show in 2007 all the more astonishing. John Cena was the special guest referee at the show. He took a belt shot from the heel, who of course Vince McMahon had aligned himself with, before Vince and Cena gave the crowd all what they wanted to see, even though it was probably something people wouldn't have believed if footage hadn't actually existed of it. You know what, maybe Vince McMahon's alright. Well, either that or Cena's brother was part of the local police department who helped raise money for charity as a part of this show, and he just wanted to keep his golden boy sweet. Either way, it's a nice story. Number 4, the Simulcast. Look at his bloody face. I mean, to be fair, that door was forbidden. There was no way WWF and WCW were ever going to co-promote with each other. That was until Vince McMahon kicked that door down after buying WCW for a pittance in 2001 and doing the infamous Simulcast on Monday Nitro and Monday Night Raw. That got the ball rolling for the invasion, something which many people, myself included, have never really gotten over because it was so piss poor. You won, Vince, get over it. Number 3, ROH versus CZW. Alright, there was no real Forbidden Door to speak of, but the beauty of this inspired storyline is it just felt so real. Ring of Honor and Combat Zone Wrestling are antithetical to one another. And so when Ring of Honor World Champion Bryan Danielson stood up and said, "I'm the best wrestler in the world, someone try and take this title off me," and then CZW's Chris Hero very nearly defeated him, that set off an epic storyline off the back of a phenomenal match. There was mystery opponents, there was swerves, there was alliances, transgressions. It was just spectacular. Yeah, it turns out the can't really work lot did it far better than WWE ever could. Number 2, XPW invades ECW. Again, this isn't necessarily a case of the Forbidden Door being open, more so being sort of barged through pathetically in this case. I don't think it's too much to say that XPW is just a knockoff of Extreme Championship Wrestling, which makes it even more cheeky that those bastards decide to invade ECW at Heatwave 2000. And it wasn't really an invasion, it was just 6 of them sat on the front row wearing XPW merch. And by doing nothing, they did something. And by doing something, I mean they got ejected and wailed on backstage. But the thing is, the publicity stunt worked. They were talked about then and they're still being talked about 21 sodding years later. So if you wanted attention, Rob Black, here it is, you piece of shit. Number 1, NXT embraces the indie scene. It was effectively forbidden. For WWE, the independent wrestling scene was full of indulgent, pale, short geeks who didn't really know how to work, and yeah, alright, I suppose if they get some buzz, we'll sign them, but we'll resent them, and they'll have to unlearn everything before they get anywhere near the main roster, and then they'll still probably just get jobbed out to Vince McMahon's latest Muscle Man project. I mean, for goodness sake, they called Daniel Bryan a deformed vegan nerd. Bryan Danielson, for God's sake. The thing is, in 2014, that deformed vegan nerd, their words, not mine, Daniel, yeah, he was kind of more over, a lot more over, way more over than Batista and Randy Orton. And, whilst we're at it, Triple H. And therefore, that opened the door to NXT becoming the super indie that we know it is today. Gone was the developmental, territorial model. Now, Triple H was going to run NXT and put his arm around his latest project, pointing at them, rather than what he would have done a decade prior, which is probably bury them. while stood next to a monitor saying that they can't work. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Let us know in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, for daily wrestling podcasts. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. Thanks for watching. I've been Adam from What Culture. I'll see you soon.